Hey everybody, welcome back. We're excited to have a Q&A with all of the speakers that we've had today. If you have a question that you'd like to be asked, there are note cards. I know back there, you can write questions and bring them over to Michaela, who's waving right now, and we can get them in the rotation here. So our first question is for Garth from Kenneth. What is the strategy this year for new signings? Do you anticipate any large international signings?
We always look for guys that were 6 foot tall, especially at center back. No, I mean, look, from a structural perspective, we have our 3 DP spots full. We have our under 22 DP spot full. So when you talk about large signings, presumably that DP level, I don't see that happening. We definitely have room for TAM level signings. But we, as I said in the original chat, we have 25 guys under contract already. So, and we did that intentionally with the idea of certainly going for Champions League, but then were we fortunate enough to win to be ready for Club World Cup, because as it turns out, they're not going to give us a lot of ramp-up time. So, we could field, the good news is we could field a team tomorrow. I think that would be very competitive, certainly if JP got back. But I think in terms of large signings, I think you're talking about 1 or 2 guys that will come in and help the team.
All right, thank you. Next question, Peter or whomever wants to answer it. Where will I be able to hear the Sounders on radio in 2023? Who will be the new commentators? And is there something I'll be able to, or is there a way I'll be able to access it on Apple or the radio station? Do we know any news on that?
In terms of the radio, it's going to be the same as last year. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, Taylor.
There's your expert.
But one of the things that I wanted to say about local broadcast, because I think that's what everybody's worried about in terms of Apple, is one of the things that was really interesting. We were at the MLS All-Star game, and we heard from Eddie Q, who's the head of Apple, in the relationship between MLS and Apple. They asked Apple, what was the things that you learned from broadcasting MLB baseball? And they said 2 things we learned that were super important. One is our fans and people love data, and so they plan to incorporate data in a very aggressive way, which I'm really anxious to see. The second was the importance of local broadcast. And so to that end, they're very focused on how to incorporate local broadcast into the Apple ecosystem. And they're working on it, and we're working on it. More to come. But as far as like where things are going to be, for sure, I'll let Taylor answer that question.
Yeah, it's the interesting part about the Apple opportunity is that a lot of clubs have been in a pause posture until we got the Apple media rights, global media rights deal in place. And so now that we understand the first domino to fall, we're working on everything that comes downstream. And what we know for certainty is we have a great partner in iHeartMedia and KJR. Radio is more important than ever next year as matches are singularly produced at the league level. And there will be a chance that, so every match, every Sounders match will have a national English, a national Spanish, and some matches very likely will have a local radio simulcast as part of it. It's very important that you guys can listen to a Seattle voice speak for our matches. And so all that work is happening in real time. And I know that we will announce our full local media partnerships likely in the February timeframe leading into the season.
This question is from Maya, from Stefan. Can you elaborate on the carbon neutral efforts of the club?
Sure. So in 2019, we became a carbon neutral club. We work closely with our partners at, 2018, our partners at Sustainable Business Consulting to measure our scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions every year, and then offset those carbon emissions and by measure those and then offset them by tree planting. And so many of you have come with us and planted. We've worked with Dirt Corps and Forterra here and their projects along the Cedar Green River watershed, the Duwamish River watershed, and we get our hands dirty and we plant trees. We clear blackberry bushes and other invasive species. We restore salmon habitat, and we ensure that other ground cover and other replacement sort of greenery along the watershed help improve the ecosystem and make it better than when we left it. We are currently investigating sort of what our long-term strategy and sustainability will be, especially as we move into this facility and have a new opportunity to think about energy emissions, the way in which we engage with a natural habitat and the water features that are here on site. And we expect to be able to talk more about that as we go forward in 2023 and 2024. But we'll continue to measure our emissions. We'll continue to think about the ways in which to offset and also, most importantly, to reduce consumption, and something that we can do unique when we are all under one roof here at Longacres for the first time.
This question's for Adrian. Can you talk to us about the Zulily as a sponsor and how long that goes for, and what the future is of sponsorship in that way?
Sure. Well, Zulily has been a fantastic partner, first with Jeff Yerkeson, who was running the company, and they've had recent leadership change. Terry Boyle now the CEO. We hope that Zulily is a partner, one of the partner in the family for a long time. We may or may not have some announcements about front of the jersey in the not too distant future. The deal was a contract through the 2022 season, so more to come there. But we will have a great jersey partner in 2023 and beyond.
One great perk of having tickets to the Kraken or the Storm is that public transit is included. And so this would be a question probably for Taylor or Maya. Since the Sounders care about the environment, is there any way to include mass transit or bus discount like those clubs do?
This is a great question. I think the first thing to say is that one of the things that we've learned through the World Cup process and are really proud of is that Lumen Field itself sits at the most transit-rich hub of any major stadium on the West Coast. We have long-standing conversations with Sound Transit to figure out better ways to service our matches. And we now know one of the things that maybe is a knock-on effect of the Apple TV deal is having destination matches, of having Wednesday nights and Saturday nights gives us a lot more consistency in the calendar to have those conversations in a concerted effort. When we talk about 17 matches at different times, different days of the week, it's a little hard to have those conversations in a way that allows for our mass transit company to also help plan to service our matches. But the consolidation in the schedule is going to give us that opportunity. And I think all of those options are on the table. I enjoy using the Kraken app, and we geek out and we spend time with those folks to sort of figure out what are those best practices you've learned about Climate Pledge over the last 2 years and helping to get your fans into the Seattle Center area and out of the Seattle Center area in more efficient ways and certainly more sustainable ways.
I'll add two quick things. One, we do measure transportation for all of our fans to and from every match in our carbon footprint calculation. That's already a part of our carbon neutral posture. Number two is transportation's one of a handful of barriers that we hear from fans about coming to match day. And so we are committed to making sure our matches are accessible from everyone, and transportation's a key part of that. And so please know that we're talking about it in real time and leaning on our partners in the Kraken through their technology and their learnings and their insights.
Next question is for Henry. Can you discuss player recruitment? Does this rely on existing clubs or teams or school teams and tournaments? And how can you engage with players from underserved communities?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when it comes to player recruitment, we look at a host of I guess, facets or pathways that a player can come to us. There's the existing, what we would consider traditional club system. Okay, so your Seattle United, your PAC, okay, your clubs that are playing within a structured organization or system within the community. And then we have multiple players that are within our academy. We have multiple players that are working with our players and our scouts to come from different areas as well. If I look at Dragons FC, if I look at Atletico de Pac, if I look at Celtic, there's a bunch of clubs that we give access to and we scout heavily in. It's not just about what player comes from what club, but these players that we find from different areas. We talked about Danny Leva in the player development part. We talked about Obed, and these players are coming from places where there's no access to an MLS club. There's no access to that type of level of coaching. And so we ensure that everybody has the same equity when it comes to being able to be part of this developmental program.
Taylor, will our scarves be mailed to us because waiting in that giant line was no fun?
If you will prefer your scarf to be mailed to you, it will be mailed to you next year. There will be an opt-in for those fans that prefer that method. There will be an option for fans to come to the stadium if that's your preference for next year.
By the way, don't blame Taylor for the lack of the box. The man who is sitting right here is the person responsible for elimination of the box. And, you know, I think we learned a lot. I will say the following, which is exactly what Taylor just said. We want to deliver things to people that actually want them. And, you know, when we decided, or when, I guess I imposed upon the group to eliminate the mailing of the scarves, you had to understand at the time we had a 15% return addresses. We were having our service team was overwhelmed with like trying to chase down these, where to find the new addresses and all those kind of things. And it was just a lot of time, a lot of energy spent on doing that. And what we really want to do is just deliver products to people that actually want them and where they can get them. And so whatever works best for you. And so we tried not doing it. And we heard loud and clear, that some people definitely want it. And so we're going to try to figure it out.
This question.
Don't blame Taylor. He does not deserve that at all.
This question is from Grandma ML, and the question is, what happens to the 90? Will it be open before matches again?
You should pass the microphone. Yes. Yeah. No crickets, Stacy. Yeah, the 90 is a key piece of our club, and we've used it in different ways. And as we bring the full pre-pandemic match day back, that's a key area that we're going to continue to invest in.
And the flashlight.
My dream.
How will the Tacoma Defiance how will Tacoma Defiance fill out the roster next season?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to put it is we have some very exciting players coming through the system right now. I think they're very, very close to putting themselves in that professional pathway. So we're going to fill it, obviously, from that aspect coming in from the academy. We'll also look at the density of talent that we have within the first team. The players that are there that are very young as well are going to be getting substantial minutes within Tacoma Defiance as well to keep their development going. And then we always like to bring in players that can help develop our youngest potential players as well. We're going to bring in players that do have already proven pro experience. We're going to bring in the players that can help create the environment that we need to create so that these young players have somebody, one, to look to, but also somebody to emulate, not just within our first team, but within their day-to-day environment.
Can we give a shout out to Wade Weber?
Wade.
Honestly, the man did an amazing job. The first time we've ever made the playoffs as a Defiance team, and couldn't be prouder of him. He was just a great developer of talent with Henry, but on the field, Wade just did a ginormous job. I mean, I'm sure he's nervous because he's got to restack, but as a leader, as a coach, as someone that can help develop our kids, unbelievable. And so really I'd be proud of him.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
So Wade is flying back to Seattle tomorrow, having just finished his pro license within U.S. Soccer. So another congratulations to Wade as well.
So this question is from Walter, and it is about the Sounders app. If you're an Android user, it often logs you out. In fact, I've had to do it where I've been logged out twice in a row when I've just brought up my tickets. And starting 11 doesn't work, and there's some other issues in there. Is there any further development that's going to go on with the app, or is that something that the club is moving away from?
Yeah, but breaking news, the Sounders will have a new app within the next month. And just an expansion beyond that, we're really proud of the app that's been very consistent, high quality. Sorry for Walter and his poor experience, but I think what's important to us is that we have mechanisms to speak to members and different types of members in different ways, so we can diversify outside of your emails and stop sending as many emails, and that we can deliver the right experience to you, whether you are a season ticket member, whether you're coming to your first match, or whether you're a fan of the club in Lima, Peru. Your app experience should be different.
This question is from Tom G. for Garth and Peter. What is the number one on-field and off-field goal of the 2023 season?
I think it has to be get back in the playoffs, right? I mean, as a starting point, we can't do that twice in a row. But look, I think we're going to compete for a championship again. I really feel like you look at that team again. You look at the number of CONCACAF Champions League best 11 players, seven guys, and they're all coming back. And as we talked about, 4 of them are playing in the World Cup and they're prime age. And I feel really good about our group going into next year.
I'd say off the field, we'd really need to focus heavily on our corporate partnerships business and our premium business. And those two things are probably the key things and drivers of future revenue for the club. It was a tough year, as I mentioned earlier, in 2020 and to 2021. We had to rebuild basically our entire business on the ticketing side and on the corporate partnership side. And that work is ongoing. We've made some great strides. Hopefully we'll be able to announce some really big things and important things very shortly. But that continues to be where we probably can pick up the most, I would say.
This question is about Defiance on the business side. Why were Defiance season ticket holders never contacted this last season about the change to MLS Next Pro and being season ticket holders?
Yeah, so when we left MLS Next Pro, we downshifted away from the Tacoma Rainiers. And so the Tacoma Rainiers were our partner in ticketing for all Tacoma Defiance matches previous to MLS Next Pro. We worked with them to communicate to the folks that were in the ecosystem to let folks know that the matches were no longer going to be at Cheney in USL, and then worked really hard with MLS Next Pro as the schedule format, as the competition calendar came out, to push information out anew as we transition back to Starfire for MLS Next Pro. I think the thing that we were really proud about is that MLS Next Pro went with us on our idea this year to take all of the ticket proceeds from MLS Next Pro matches and push them to our commitment to 26 by 2026. The year of transition allowed us some flexibility. This is a league that is creative, that is trying new things, and one of those things was the capacity to think about ticketing in a different way. And so it's something that allowed us to generate some additional income, support fundraising efforts, and support that message around 26 by 2026 as players enter the pathway and as we leave that legacy behind for the next generation of soccer players.
And we genuinely apologize if there was some miscommunication or lack of communication. We're not perfect, and we take all these things as learning opportunities. And if there are people that were put out by that, we're very, very sorry.
I'm going to go off script here because I feel bad for Tom just sitting there. So what's your favorite thing that's going to be in this beautiful building moving forward?
There's a lot to choose from. I did mention my lunchroom got upgraded considerably from a bad desk in my office in Pioneer Square in this new building. I do think that actually will be it, is that every day I'll be able to walk out, have lunch, and walk out to that deck and watch training for the first time. I haven't been to Starfire in 3 years because of COVID protocols. Just the chance for all of us to be connected again in a real way that we never had a chance before. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. And it's going to be a hell of a party space, that second deck.
Garth, this question is from Murphy. How will the Apple TV deal impact our spending on new players during the winter signing period?
Well, considering it's not operational, the winter signing period, that might be a little bit premature. But no, look, the substantive thing there is if you go back in time 30 years and you had a couple of baseball teams, the Cubs on WGN and the Braves on WTBS, and in that medium, those were the teams that were on nationwide. And to this day, those brands are all over the country. And we think that same thing can be replicated with the Apple deal, where, we are then on TVs all over the world. And again, then you have kids watching the team and saying, oh, that Sounders, we can't wait till you see this new jersey. Peter's already teased it, but it's going to be amazing. I got to have that jersey. I want to go play for that team. I see, 40,000 people turning their flashlights on after goals and screaming and cheering, and I want to be part of that when I grow up, and that's cool, right? I mean that makes then Seattle and the Sounders and MLS the shining city on the hill, and it's really exciting to think about, both on and off the field in terms of the calls that I think we're going to get from kids all over the world saying, I want to go play for the Sounders. And look, I think some of them come over and play for our academy and want to move their families to Seattle, and I think it's just a really, really cool opportunity.
It's the final question. Henry, what is the frequency of meetings with players regarding their status to move towards the first team? And what's the process of dropping players? Do they get a plan as well if that's not their path?
Yeah, I think to answer the first question, it's very consistent and it's very frequent. I think we have multiple benchmarking events throughout the year. We have, Winter Showcase, GA Cup. We obviously have the start of the Tacoma Defiance season. We have the end of Tacoma Defiance season. And we like to meet minimum 3 to 4 times yearly regarding that player's pathway. And regardless of what the player's pathway is, there will always be a plan. So if we look at a player that might be high potential and they're going to be geared towards a more professional pathway, that is something that we can start to prepare them for, not just as a player, but also mentally, physically, and give them all the tools that they need to step into the professional game. And that might be training sessions with Tacoma Defiance. That might be training sessions with the first team to start to pressure test them in an environment that makes them extremely uncomfortable. Now, for the players that are helping those players develop and get to those stages and achieve those goals, the players that might be on a more traditional pathway, meaning college, okay, we're starting to allow those players to go for their official visits during the season, going to I guess last week we had 2 players at Grand Canyon University, we had a player at Clemson, and we had a player at, I think, USF. This is in the past month. So regardless of the pathway they're moving towards, we try to support them in every possible way to help them get to whatever that next step is. Because the reality is they're always playing for their next coach. They're not playing for the coach they're playing for right now. So we try to make sure that we give them the tools to enter either pathway. We want them all to make it. They're not all going to make it. But the ones that follow our advice and the ones that adhere to the process, they do have success in the game beyond our academy and beyond our club.
You at the end?
Yeah.
I just wanted to end with a final thank you. First to the group up here, answering the questions with authority and expertise, shielding me from having to make up answers and hope that I'm getting them right. To the staff here who've made this event possible, to the entire Sounders staff, really, for all you do, to Alliance Council, for making this event an annual great event and part of democracy in sport. And again, just really to all of you, to our fans, who make everything we do possible, are there day and night for our team to support the players and help us win games and win championships and create moments, enrich lives, unify through soccer, which you have probably come to be sick of hearing us repeat, but it really is the lens through which we look at our jobs and how we are stewards of this franchise for the community. So thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you watching or being here in person. And if you missed anything and you want to see it, it will be available online to watch later. And if you want to join the Alliance Council, be sure to find one of us and talk about it, like Stacy here, who just got her votes to be on Alliance Council next year. So thank you, everybody. Good night.